to another show. Bear with me, this is a new phone, and all my other stuff transferred except my Kind Master, and I have a limited bundle of resources to make a video with, even though I consider the content of my YouTube channel as the starring attraction. Now, most of the glass on the front of my screen had come off of my fingers a long time ago, and it was just time to break down and get a 5G phone. Haven't noticed any adverse reactions yet. My hands do tingle a little bit more than they know. I'm just kidding. Haven't noticed anything, but that's not what this video is about. Okay. And this is something that all targeted individuals can relate with, because if you're the targeted individual in the classic sense that is experiencing higher forms of harassment in multiple geographical locations in pretty much every area of your life, well, you're going to be able to understand this, and we're going to call it perpology, because there are a lot of perps involved in gangstalking. Okay, without them, it just wouldn't work. Okay, and I know that there are people out there that have experienced a lot of things that might not involve street theater or gaslighting. It might be more along the lines of technology, like V2K. Well, that involves perps. Or electronic harassment. That's always fun. But the essence of gangstalking is that the perps, either by their own twisted desires or being enticed, harass the target. And rather than to try to anticipate the next move of the gangstalkers or this little game that you're in, it's always best to keep it simple. To keep it very simple, okay? You need to know all the things that they're going to do. You need to know their little tricks. You need to know the methodologies. You need to know about the gaslighting, about the street theater, about the innuendos, right? About the attacks on your personal property, right? About all the little disinformation games and the techniques to turn people against you, and what you can expect in your neighborhood, in your apartment complex, at your workplace, and all that stuff. But you want to keep it simple for you. Yes, you do. Because this stuff is based upon reaction. Okay, they have a motive. Okay, and I've talked about this with people before. They're not just trying to get you fired. They're not trying to make your life difficult. They're not just trying to ruin your day. They're not just trying to turn your whole life upside down and throw you into a meat grinder nightmare from hell, even though that's, well, part of the game. They are trying to alter you. They are trying to manipulate you. They want to control you. They want to feed off you. They want to use you like a piece of meat for social coercion. There are a lot of different things they're trying to do. And all these methods, all these little games that they play, well, they harbor a motive. And contrary to the gaslighting that I think all targeted individuals deal with, no, they are not trying to help you. No, they are not trying to get you off drugs. No, they are not trying to refine you. No, they're not trying to improve you. They're not trying to guide you into the light with a cruel to be kind technique. No, that has nothing to do with it. It's about destroying you. It's about altering you. It's about manipulating you. It's about feeding off you. These people are evil. Just the things that these people are involved with is going to give you a clue to that, but there's a lot of gaslighting involved in gangstalking, and I've fallen prey to that, right? But think about it.
Ah, what a beautiful day. The sun's shining, the little birds are chirping. I think I'm in the mood for some street theater. What do you say?
Really, it does sound fun. We can top it off with a little gaslighting, destroy somebody's personal property, and there's always that paranoid guy that's hanging down at the Quickie Mart. We can always throw some innuendos at him. We could finish it off with a barbecue with some steak and maybe some fine wine.
Yeah, someone else's misery, steak, and wine. It's all I need.
It's basically proof that these people, well, they're miserable to the core, and they deserve to be, okay? I'm not going to get bitter. I'm not going to go off on that. But, you know, when's the last time you were having a good day and you wanted to go out and do something like that? It's just weird, okay? It doesn't happen. That's the point. And you want to keep it simple. You want to know who you're dealing with. It's very simple. You want to know what they're trying to do. That's also very simple. The difficult part comes in with all these sophisticated little mind games that they have. Okay, all these psychological techniques, theatrical gaslighting, traumatic invasion into the target's mind. And if you're one of those targeted individuals who are dealing with higher forms of harassment, you're probably dealing with some pretty weird stuff too. You got to mix some of that in there, right, to get your attention. And that can, it can involve a lot of different things. It can involve a type of clairvoyant street theater, synchronicities and stuff like that, where you might have people, showing up at different geographical locations that you weren't even planning on going to. Okay, how does that work? Or things that you were thinking, and it involves the directed conversation or whatever. And I've talked about all those things. I can go over that briefly because, that kind of stuff really throws people off. That's the freaky stuff. If it's something that can just be figured out by people using their phones, or put cameras in your house or something like that, where they're watching you and writing this stuff down, and sometimes that happens. Okay, sometimes it's that simple. They'll surveil the target, they'll gather intel, and they'll play a little game. But it can become more complex than that, and some targeted individuals deal with that, man, and the street theater and the gaslighting can involve things that they don't even talk about. They don't even say these things. It might be dreams. It might be just thoughts that are in their mind. It might be, fears and stuff like that they've never told anyone. They never even communicated these things, but somehow these people know. Okay. Or it can involve things that just haven't happened. And I've talked about that before, that in my opinion, the roots to gangstalking are spiritual. Okay, and you were dealing with spiritual beings, whether you want to go into Psalm 82 and look at the principalities and powers, or some of the stuff that Michael Heiser talks about with angels and demons and unclean spirits and familiar spirits and spirits of divination and so on and so forth, where you have a dimensional perspective. Okay, you have the first heaven, second heaven, the third heaven, and you are dealing with time dilation, and they can see things in advance. And that doesn't mean everything is written in stone, though. I think that there are different possibilities. Okay, however you want to process that information. But what happens is the targeted individual is hit with those things, and well, they come to conclusions, and it's very frightening for them, right? It seems as though people are reading their minds. There's really no other way to explain it without those two options. So either people are reading your mind, or you have different things going on in the spiritual dimension where they are literally throwing things at you. They are throwing thoughts into your mind. There's different chain reactions that are going on in the targeted individual's life that trigger them and make them predictable. And then there's also the dimensional type of perspective where they can have that foreknowledge. How do you think that they do those things? And I often reference the story of Paul and Silas in Philippi, where they cast the demon spirit out of the prophetess, and she made a lot of money for her masters foretelling the future. Well, how do they do that? They have a different perspective, okay? And they can use that knowledge against the targeted individual. So if you're dealing with stuff like that, just drop it. Don't freak out. Don't worry about it. Don't get paranoid and let them start triggering you and get you into that chain reaction where you become paranoid, and then you start thinking strange things, and you start becoming afraid, and then it's a snowball effect. And then the targeted individual, gets to critical mass, freaks out, or just goes into, hiding, falling into a deadly game of self-scrutiny and a ridiculously high, exacerbated level of paranoia. The thing you have to remember is you're no different from anyone else. Keep that simple, okay? I wish I would have had somebody to tell me this stuff when I was a new targeted individual. But, that's what you have to do. So your protocol is to know these little games, okay? You want to know that they're not trying to help you. They're evil. They're miserable. Okay, it's unjustified. That's the first thing. The second thing is they're going to play a lot of mind games with you. They're going to try and convince you of things and get you to form propositions and adopt little ideas that are blown out of proportion. Okay, they're taken out of context. They're taken into areas where they're mixed with disinformation. Okay. And I know that they've come out recently and talked about the fact that they have the ability to map your mind. And they have little codes and they can decipher. I don't know. They're saying a lot of things, but I haven't seen the evidence for it. Okay. And I think it plays into the delusion that they're trying to sell the elite and some of the other technocrats and stuff like that that are on board with this stuff and are funneling their huge amounts of money into this technological stuff and in all these little agendas that are out there in the government. That's my thought, because I haven't seen the evidence yet. I'm not saying they're not working on it, but you have to be careful what kind of conclusions you come to. The individuals that they have convinced to go along with their agenda that are funneling money and being figureheads, you know who they are. They really believe this stuff. They believe that it's up to them to save the planet. Okay, they have bought this whole thing, and it plays into their ego and stuff like that. But you have to see the deception, the game that goes along with it. And that's what these things are. They're games. Don't get sucked into that. Don't get sucked into the game mentality, because of course you're being ganged up on, right? And you have to remember that by default, anytime someone does these things or cheats or whatever, just like a boxing match, if you filled your gloves full of rocks or something, right? You've lost. You've forfeited your right to victory, and so have these individuals. Don't forget that. Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to make this video a little bit shorter due to the Kind Master problem. And we're going to go into number 2, Perp-ology, the game number 2, in the next video. And hopefully I'll be able to iron this little glitch out. But until then, we'll just call this the fundamentals of Perp-ology. Thanks for watching.